once again for the renegade master. Back 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 once again for the renegade master.
So hello my renegades, and we are back, and what are we back to? Love is Blind Brazil season 3, and it is now episode 7. So as you know, we've all moved on, everybody's met parents, you had notice board gate as I call it, then you had Daniel moaning about Danny wanting to be naked in her own space and walking around in her underwear, and then you kind of had Val showing Karen around his place, and you know, the underwear and the jacket in the drawers that Karen thankfully did not see. So as it was before, it starts off kind of sad, this episode, and then it comes to fruition that Val lost his grandmother, and this was kind of like straight after like Karen's met her, so she had the opportunity to meet her and see how Val engages with his grandmother and all of that. So it's a bit of a sad one for Val. So I don't think there isn't much to talk about when it comes to Val and Karen at this point, because he's at the moment, as one would expect, he's in grief mode, to be fair. And to be fair, Karen is there for him as well. I don't know if any of the other people from the pods know, any of the other couples know, but I have an idea or an inkling that they may do, because at the end of the day, we don't get to see everything that's filmed on this show, and we know that we get to see whatever is picked up and edited and then put for us to actually look at. Do you know what I mean? So we don't know what goes on behind the scenes really well and truly. So you go to Dan and Danielle, and I keep calling him Danielle. Why the hell do I keep calling him Danielle? It's because her name is Daniela. That's why. Her name is Daniela, and then you've got Daniel. So when I say Danny, then automatically I want to say Danielle. His name is Daniel, okay? I shall get it right. It's Danny and Danielle. See, I even say it like that, Danielle. It's Daniel. Okay, it's Daniel. So we go to Danny and Daniel, and Danny's mom calls, and they get to meet Daniel through like video call at first, and they appear accepting of him at the end of the day. So they're getting on particularly well. And as Danny says, like, her parents' marriage is a reference point, and she's always had the wish for her father to see her in a wedding dress before, you know, he passes, because he's not very well, and his mum is like his carer, and they live quite far away from where Danny is. So she loved the opportunity to be able to introduce Daniel to them, and for them to speak, and for them to get to know each other. So yeah, it went well. I mean, the parent, except her mum did pipe up and said, like, Danny knows that she shouldn't drink, and I was thinking, well, what's that about? But it never came to fruition in terms of what they explained it to be. But yeah, it was a good meeting. Nothing more to say about that. It was a cool meeting, but you let me know what you think. Then it goes on to Agatha and Hainan, and they meet Agatha's parents this time around, and this is the reverse, where Agatha comes in first and speaks to her parents. Hainan's outside somewhere waiting for his cue to come in, and then she kind of says to them, don't you notice anything different? And they're looking at her as if to say, no, this is still our daughter, what's supposed to be different? And then she shows her hand, and they're like, oh my god. And then they realise, oh, but it's on the other hand. So then in comes Hainan, and straight away, as her friend said, they look like twins. They absolutely look like twins, because she said that they do look alike. So Dad was quite open. He was talking, got on with Hainan. Mum was kind of set back and was kind of, I think, getting the measure of Hainan. A little bit worried about her daughter and worried about how fast this process has gone. So yeah, she was kind of cautious, but they were both accepting of him, so you couldn't ask for anything more really. They were both accepting of him in that regard. I think, as I said, it was just a little bit overwhelming for her mum, but I think meeting them both has kind of eased her fears in that regard. So then you got Bianca, and she actually meets Jarvis's little girl, and it's Jarvis's ex partner that actually brings the little girl, and they actually spend that time together, including the ex-partner within the home. I thought at first it was a little bit, it's going to be a little bit weird, but it wasn't. The ex-partner was really quite accepting of Bianca and allowing for her daughter to get to know Bianca in that sense. And this, again, like I said in the other episode, I do find it a little bit weird. I'm kind of apprehensive about introducing children so early on into a relationship where you don't know whether you're going to be saying yes and spending your life with that person. So you've just opened up a doorway for your child to meet this person, and you don't know if you're going to be with them through thick and thin in that sense. And to me, I think that they should hold off in terms of involving children, especially children as young as Jarvis's daughter. I'm just thinking about confusion, but you let me know what you think on that stance. But I know if it was me and I've just met someone, I know that and I've got my child, I'm not going to be introducing my child into that relationship until I'm steadfastly sure that this relationship is going to surpass, and it would usually be after the year mark before the person even gets to meet my child in that sense. But that's how I am. Anyway, as I said, you let me know how you think in regards to that. So then it moves on to Danny and Daniel, and Danny takes him to go meet her friends and family, and they're literally quite a big joyous group. They're as open as I would say Daniel is with his family. They're very interactive. They ask the right questions, and then her brother was asking the questions as well, and Daniel answered them like openly and honest. Can't say nothing about that. He answered them openly and honest. That doesn't mean his red flag has gone away, because there's different situations with that dude that I still say he's a red flag warning. The same with Val. That does not mean his red flag has gone away for me at this moment in time. But I will say that he was open with her family and able to talk and answer those questions. And then her brother and sister took Danny to one side and had that conversation with her, and they were just happy for her, to be honest. They were just like, if she's happy, they're happy. And as long as he looks after her, which is all that you can ask for, really, to be fair. So then it goes on to Val and Karen, and Val gets to meet Karen's, I think her father and the grandmother comes. And Karen is very apprehensive because her dad is kind of like in the vein of, this is all weird, I don't know why you're doing this kind of thing, and it's not something that you would normally do. He's quite a traditional person in how you meet someone, then you get to know them, then the marriage comes and things like that. But to be fair, I think she was anxious over nothing, because he was listening. He was quite open in listening to Karen and to Val in regards to their situation and how they see it. So he was quite open. He still thought it was like absurd and that they both were breaking the standards at the end of the day, especially when it was Val who turned around and said that it was actually Karen who proposed to him. And there was silence from the dad at that point, as if to say, really? And the grandmother always said, well, you can't stop Karen from doing what she wants to do. And I'm kind of thinking, yeah, you're right there, Grandma. You are right there, Grandma. From what I've seen, you can't stop that woman from doing what she wants to do. But in the end, now, as again, they were accepting of him. They were accepting of the daughter. And the dad said that he felt better knowing and be able to speak to Val in person. Grandmother said that she likes him, to be fair, and Val got slightly upset and did leave the table because her grandmother reminded him of his own grandmother that had passed, the one that he was very, very, very close to. And you could see that they did have a very close relationship. I mean, death is one of the things that comes to us all, but it's always the hardest thing to deal with. So then it moves on to suit fitting day. So you get your suit fitting day, and it moves on to dress fitting day. So, you know, the guys go into their space, the girls go into their space. They bring their people closest to them to be able to see how the dress fits, and they'll be the first ones to see it. Now, all the guys look good. I ain't gonna lie, all the guys look good and all the girls look good. But the one thing I want to bring to the forefront is that Maria brought her mother. to the dress fitting. Now, this woman sat there, and every other person that came out in their dress, she cried like a good one. Like, she was spurting out them tears. She was so emotional, and everybody was saying, "Oh, I wonder if you're going to be this way with Maria." And she was like, "I'm sure I am, definitely." Da, 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 da. And then, as soon as Maria finds a dress that she loves, like hits her heartstrings, she comes downstairs. Everybody else around her sheds those tears and said she looks gorgeous. What does her mom do? Just full on, all you could hear was bloody sagebush and wind straight past. That woman did not even give one ounce of emotion, nothing, not a bean. And it upset Maria so much, and she could see that she destroyed Maria when she did what she did. And I'm just thinking, what is going on with this woman? Like, really, well and truly, what is going on with this woman? Sorry, I was eating potato later on today. I got it on my lip. She, not a bean for the poor girl. So she went back. So Maria goes back because Maria gets really upset. Doesn't really show that she's upset. And then I think it cuts to, I think it's Agatha saying in her VC in regards to how Maria has described her relationship with her mum, and said that her mum is quite narcissistic, and it's become like a codependent relationship between herself and her mum. And it's also kind of like a competition where her mom tries to upset or do better than what her daughter does, which isn't good in the long run. It's not good in the long run because, as you can see, it's literally impacting on Maria, like affecting her emotions completely. So she goes up, she takes off the dress, and then there's a couple more girls that come down in their dresses, and the mom starts crying again. And Maria's just sitting there with like a look on her face, and I says, I don't blame you for looking like that, because I'd be sitting there thinking, what the fuck? What the actual fuck is going on right now? Like, it was a surreal moment, a proper surreal moment, that this woman couldn't find an ounce of freaking emotion to give to her daughter, in terms of that's what her daughter was searching for. That's what your daughter was searching for. Just an ounce of emotion being given her way, an ounce of acceptance, and her mom couldn't do that. And I just thought, yeah. But then I kind of think to myself, the way in which Maria interacts with people, especially with Cameron and especially with Menandro, and how she deals with certain situations, now I'm kind of thinking, is this a product of her upbringing in terms of how her mother has dealt with her? So she hasn't learned anything different into dealing with people how she's used to dealing with her mother. But as again, use like, let me know what you think. If you've watched it, let me know what you think in regards to that little dynamic between Maria and her mother. So then they all go back to their flats, and in this episode it just highlights Maria and Menandro speaking, and Menandro asking Maria how it went and if she enjoyed herself. And Maria said yes, she did enjoy herself, and then explained what happened with her mum. And basically, I'm just saying, at the end of the day, Maria's an adult in her own right. You can see the hurt and disappointment in her face. Menandro was there for her, and Menandro says they've kind of got a weird relationship, and that maybe she needed to speak to her mum in order to get out what she needed to get out. Because apparently what has happened is, I think when she goes to speak to her mum, this is coming up to the next episode, which will be joining this one straight after, to be fair, she's realised her mum kind of blocks her on messaging apps and social media apps, and I'm just like, why as an adult, why as a parent would you do that to your child? I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. But Menandro's saying to Maria that they need to really just stop relying on each other the way that they do, because at the end of the day, Maria's an adult. She needs to make her own decisions and not constantly be looking for validation from her mum, because her mum is clearly not going to give her that validation. So then it moves on to Bianca and Jabez. When Bianca comes home from the dress fitting, and then you've got Jabba sitting at the table just like guzzling wine like it's going out of fashion. You can kind of tell he's already drunk, and I think it's become a kind of a tense issue between them two. So I don't know if this was happening before the cameras came in, like, or before we understood what was happening between these two, because Bianca doesn't like it when Jarbas is drunk and then she's trying to talk to him, because he comes belligerent and quite flippant. So basically I think she was telling him in terms of the discussion that she had when the host came in and said how things are between her and Jarbas, and Jarbas was saying, oh, things are great, couldn't ask for better. But Bianca was saying that he's quite messy, and she's kind of messy herself, but he's quite messy, and it is a bit of a sticking point. And she was just explaining that to Jarbas, and then Jarbas was kind of like, literally went off cuff and basically told her she needed to show her true self, that she's the messy one and this, that and the other. And I thought, Jarbas, what you need to have done is just listen to what Bianca was saying, rather than literally jumping down her throat when she was talking. Like, wind your necking, mate, proper wind your necking. But yeah, they started to argue, and my thing is that we're arguing over messiness, arguing over like minute messiness. But then, to be fair, I think it probably went into a bigger thing because Jarbas was dismissive of Bianca, and Jarbas was literally jibing her and saying, well, Bianca needs to show her real self, and Bianca was saying, I've been real throughout all of this, so I don't know what you're talking about. And Bianca was quite open where she says, yes, I can be a bit messy, like my wardrobes or like where I put my clothes can be a bit messy, and I'm not afraid to say that. But yeah, so then as she's talking, Jarbas then turns around, leans down, grabs the bottle of wine and starts pouring another drink. So she gets up from the table and says, you know what, I ain't talking to you when you're like this, to be fair. That's what she said to him, I ain't talking to you when like this. And then she kind of walks off, and then that's kind of how it's left until the next episode. But what I'm going to do is, rather than sign off right here, is I'm going to attach the next episode to this video. So you get a twofer. Again, a two for the price of one. So I'll be right back, my little renegades. Don't go anywhere. And we are back, my renegades. I did tell you, I hope you didn't go nowhere, because we are about to go back into the next episode of Love is Blind Brazil season 3, and this is episode 8. And as I said, this one leaves off, as I've already overcapped from the previous episode, in regards to Bianca and Jarbas having their disagreement, and then also with Maria and Menandro talking about Maria's mom, and how she's blocked her on the messages and the social media, and that Menandro thinks that it's time that she kind of like just cut those strings and became an adult herself, because Maria thinks that her mother believes that she's an embarrassment to the family, especially like when Maria was talking to her mom when Menandro and Maria met mom, and she said that she would never serve she said to her mom that, I always thought that I would never serve no man, but here I am getting his breakfast, running him a bath, or putting his slippers out. And her mum thought that kind of speech was gross in terms of not serve the point she made about not serving a man, which is quite weird, to be fair. But anyhow, we shall move on from there, and it goes to Hainan meeting, no, not Hainan, Agatha meeting Hainan's friends. And they're a female bunch, basically. They're all a bunch of women, all strong, opinionated women. Is Hainan's friends, and they've known him for quite some time. And let's just put it this way, they went in, they didn't leave no stone unturned. They literally threw Hainan under that bus, rode back and pulled him back out again and spanked his ass and said, yep, you're going again for another turn. They literally let Agatha know exactly what Hainan was like when he was in the relationship with his previous partner. And they kind of felt that they were left on the back burner, because once he gets involved with someone, he kind of starts drawing back from his friends, and they didn't want that. And Agatha was saying she would definitely not allow him to do that. But yeah, they really like were just open, just proper open. They didn't hold nothing back. But me, I mean, that's all well and good. But me myself, I'll be side eyeing my friends. I'll be like, why are you telling the people them that for? They don't need to know them things. They don't need to know. But then my friends know. My friends know. Don't do that. Don't literally just throw me out there. Do you know what I mean? And be throwing anything out there, because half the time the person that I'm with don't need to bloody know. To be fair. So yeah, it was a bit weird. It was a bit weird, but you could tell that he had an affinity to his friends. He had a strong connection to his friends, and he respected them wholeheartedly, and they respected him. And I think they kind of worried about him, because the person that he was with, or he lost himself in that relationship, and he allowed himself to be controlled basically, and they don't want that to happen again. So what they really wanted to do as well is Agatha and Hainan asked them to be bridesmaids at the wedding, which they were so happy for. They were happy for. So yeah, he's got a good group of friends. I can't, like, you know, they're friends with him for a reason. He's friends with them for a reason at the end of the day. But if Agatha thinks she's gonna get a free reign with these friends, she can think again, because these friends seem to be close knit and very opinionated, and will tell you about yourself to your face basically. I think Agatha was thinking that she gets to know more about Hainan as they're speaking about him, and she gets to hear things about him that he's uncomfortable speaking to her about. And I know that she wants to be that person with him, that he can speak about these things to him. But as Hainan said, he finds it difficult to open up in regards to those situations that are hard for him to speak about. So my thing is you don't pressure a person into speaking about those things until they're ready to speak about those things. They have to be able to trust you with their vulnerabilities and their emotions. But he's not getting that from Agatha at the moment, and that's the reason why I think he probably hasn't opened up as much as he could do yet. So we move on to Bianca, who meets up with her friends, and she basically sits down and she's telling them what happened yesterday. She told them what happened in the last episode with Jarbas, and it's making her question who he is. So basically then she says that he did come and apologise for what he did, and said he knew where he went wrong. So now they're back to loveliness. So then at the end of all of that conversation, then Jarbas comes in and meets the friends, and they appear to get on with him and stuff like that. But my thing is why would you tell your friends something like that about your man, that you had an issue with your man? Yeah, I understand you can go to your friends and you can speak to your friends about what you wish to. But my thing is I would not be speaking to my friends about the issue that I had with my man. If he came and apologized to me and we set things to right, I wouldn't need to have that conversation with my friends. And B, if he don't apologise to me and set things to right, I definitely wouldn't be having a conversation knowing full well my man's waiting for me on the other side for you to come in and be introduced, because that's going to set a tone straight off the bat. Thankfully it didn't at this point, because Bianca told them that he apologised and everything was right in the world again. But my thing is why tell them anyway? I would have told them, I would have met up with my friends privately and told them away from him and from everything else. But that would be dependent upon the situation itself. I don't think she needed to even mention it, seeing as he came and apologised and said, I know where I went wrong, and she accepted his apology, and then we're back to niceness again. There was no need for her to mention it, and then for him to come in on that aspect to then meet her friends. I find it weird, but yous like let me know what you think. So then it goes to Maria, and she's basically called her mum up wanting to have this chat with her, because I think it's time that she had opened up and had a chat with her mum to see what the fuck is going on in this relationship with her parent. So she doesn't hold a grudge against her mum in regards to her being blocked. Well, she must have unblocked her at some point. Well, being blocked at some point. I think it was kind of childish behaviour on the mum's part, but hey ho, that's neither here nor there at the moment. So her mum was trying to say that Maria doesn't realise how the empty nest syndrome is hitting her mother. She's trying to say it doesn't affect her, but of course it does, because in the way in which she's behaving towards Maria, so it does affect her. It is affecting her, because you really affecting the relationship between yourself and your daughter, especially when it's the most happiest day of her life at that point, trying on her wedding dress, coming down to be greeted with stonewall, like absolute stone, no tears, no nothing. So yes, it is affecting everything. Basically, I didn't think that her mum was listening to Maria, because she kept on trying to interrupt Maria and wanting to speak over Maria. Especially when Maria was trying to tell her how she felt, especially how she felt when she came and she didn't get the same reception that all her friends were getting. She was happy all her friends were there, and she was crying for all her friends, and they cried for her, which felt good, but she wanted that emotion from her mum, and her mum didn't provide it. Basically, she talked about the dress fitting to her mother, and basically her mum was saying that she froze. That's all it was. She completely froze, because she came down and she looked like a princess and a saint, and she didn't know how to feel. Now Maria says that she didn't get it. She didn't get what her mum was trying to say, because at the end of the day, her mum could show the emotion to all the other girls that came down in their dresses. Her mum showed that emotion, what was different about her. So yeah, nah, I don't think that chat that they had really resolved anything. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe if they really want to resolve their issues, it may be time for a trip to the therapist in that regard. Because yeah, them two talking to each other didn't really resolve much. So then we go to Karen, and she meets Val's friends, and again Val, as like with Hanan, has a group of women friends. And there's this one there called Kelly. Oh, Kelly was not playing. Kelly did not come to play, because you had the one friend that stood back and let Kelly do her thing. Even Val let Kelly do her thing. So basically, Kelly was like I have to say, Kelly was like a damn Rottweiler. She went letting up, man. She was literally on it, like making sure she asked the questions that she needed to ask and listen to the answers. But she still, from her facial expression, she still was not impressed with Karen at the end of the day. Because she's very protective of Val. Don't know why, but she is. She's very protective of Val. So basically, they turned around and said, like, you know, just because she's a woman, they wanted her, they would be there for her, they would listen to her in that sense. But she was saying that she needed Karen to be a little bit more transparent, because people can say a lot of things, but they have to be transparent in the terms of their actions and what they do. And they were liking the fact that Valmir was different, because Valmir was actually cooking, which he doesn't normally do, and he was blushing and stuff afterwards and being a little bit, you know, boyish and embarrassed. And Karen was comforting him and he allowed her that. So they liked that little bit of interaction that Val was doing with Karen. But yeah, I think they've definitely got their eye on Karen. So then you go to Jarbas meets Bianca's family, and Bianca's son is there. As again, you lot already know how I feel about children being introduced into this experiment the way that they are, because I don't think in the last two any of them really had children, so that wasn't an issue there. but I still think it's a little bit early in this experiment to be introducing the children. But then saying that, if they're going to have the children at the weddings, if they have the children at the weddings, then they're going to want to have that introduction already to be done. But my thing as well is, if they have the children at the weddings and you're going to say no to this person, that's not going to be a nice thing for these children to experience. That's all I'm saying. I just think it creates a bit of a mixed message and a bit of a mess when you involve children into something like this so early on into the experiment. So then it flies back to Agatha and Hainan, and they're both in the flats and they're having a nice time. They're cooking. Well, I think she's cooking bleeding popcorn as per fucking, I don't know what grown adult thinks popcorn can be used for dinner. I really don't know, because that's never gonna go on in my house. Popcorn for flipping dinner for food. Maybe for a quick snack. Like, if you just want to have a quick snack, or you're sitting down and you're watching something and you just want to be able to have a bit of a munch on something, then yeah, popcorn. But it's not a staple for flipping dinner. I don't know where Agatha got that from, but anyway, they're cooking. So then Agatha asks Hainan if he trusts her, but basically saying that the reason why she's asking that question is because she doesn't know much about him, and he doesn't say anything further than what he wants to say. And as soon as she said that, she'd spoilt the enjoyable mood right then and there. And I'm just like to myself, Agatha, stop pushing this man, because what you're going to do is push this man straight out the flipping door, or straight into the altar saying no, because he literally is getting to know you on a slow basis as you're getting to know him, but you're literally wanting to rush 10 steps ahead and you're not giving him a chance to catch up. And now you're saying, oh, do you trust me? You want to know more about him. You want to know because your curious mind has now been opened in terms of what his friends have said in front of you. It's just a case of, no, you can't do that to a person until he's ready to open up and speak to you. Then you're just going to have to wait for him. You have to have the patience to wait for him to do that. Same way if the roles were reversed and you weren't particularly opening up, but you were opening up slowly, he has to have the patience then to wait for you. It's no good you pushing a person and asking these, I think they're dumbass questions, to be fair. Asking these dumbass questions like, do you trust me? Do you love me? Isn't going to help the situation, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, it's hard for him to be vulnerable with her because he's not at that point yet, and she needs to understand that and not push the situation each time. Because I'm sorry, from down to the bloody organizer board, to her going off about Val, to her then going off in regards to some other things, he does not feel, I think from my opinion, that she is his safe space right now. So she needs to literally just take a step back and say, I'm going to give you this space in which to work your shit out, and then we can come back and talk about it. But stop pushing him. Just stop pushing him. But you let me know what you think about that. But I would say she needs to stop pushing him. So you get Maria and Melandro goes over to Melandro's family home, and they all meet up, and it's a good connection because even Maria's mom and dad come and they have a blast. They have an absolute blast. So I'm kind of hoping that it works out for them, but I don't know, because with how Maria is and how I've seen her at times talk to Melandro like he's a child, or push it, or wants Melandro to literally just jump onto the bandwagon with her and gets upset with him when he doesn't do so automatically. I don't think it's going to work out well for her, because she's going to push Melandro into a situation that he doesn't necessarily want to be in, and she's then going to think, well, you're not protecting me, or I feel unprotected, and then she'll have an argument with him. That's how I see it being anyway. So then you've got a blind bridal shower. So I think it was Bianca that set this up. A blind bridal shower, you know, like as in Love is Blind bridal shower. The couples went to her flat, they all sat down, and what they did is each of the couples brought a gift. Names went into a hat. When you pulled out your name, and you pulled out a name, each of the other couples got to pick a gift. So I was like, oh god, this is so not gonna work out well, because when these people meet up as a group, it never technically works out well, and usually the main culprit is Maria. I'm sorry, but it is usually the main culprit for the issue is Maria. I don't see anybody else having an issue. Like, when they all get together, it's Maria that has an issue, and it's usually with Val and Cameron, to be fair. So Maria and Menandro picked the first gift, and of course it was from Karen and Val. Maria didn't necessarily want to keep it, but couldn't bait it out like that. So when Bianca asked, do you want to switch up or do you want to keep it, they said keep it, because Maria couldn't bait it out like that, because that would be proper bait if she said, yeah, I want to swap it, because everybody would be looking at her as if to say, well, why do you want to swap it for? Do you know what I mean? Is it because it's just from Val and Karen? Make her look like a total twit, to be fair. So she didn't do that. So then they turned around and they did the old Dajay. Truth or motherfucking dare. Oh my god, are we back into the 1980s where you used to go in the cupboard and 6 minutes in heaven with someone as well from your truth and dares? Oh god. So yeah, we all know that that game does not work out well, especially when you're with people that you don't technically want to be with in the room. Question was said to Karen in regards to, I think it was about playing games or being kind of, what's the word, not subterfuge, what's the word, I can't remember, deceptive, that's the one. I had to look at my notes then. Being kind of deceptive. And Karen said, to a point, yes, I am deceptive, it's the Pisces in me. Now Menandro is Pisces. So then Maria jumped up and had to say something, and basically was going on about Menandro actually having one of the girls he'd met in the pod follow him, so then he followed her back, and how he might be deceptive from that, and and I'm like, where is this going? Like, for real, Maria, why would you throw Menandro in the melee like that, in the mix? At the end of the day, the question was for Karen. Karen answered the question. You need not have opened your mouth, to be fair. You could have kept that shit to yourself, but you were pissed because Menandro followed the girl back, the girl that he actually did speak to beside yourself in the pods. And as again, like in the last episode, I said, what does it matter? What does it matter? You spoke to people within close confines. You may have made connections, not romantic connections, but friendship connections with people. And then once they followed you back in the outside world, you followed them back. Makes no motherfucking bones at all. I mean, I think for them to get jealous over that little bit is just beyond me, like absolutely beyond me. And you could tell that Maria was totally pissed about it, but I don't understand why she was pissed. And this is where I get the feeling that Maria gets to a point sometimes where she wants to tell Menandro what to do, basically. So she showed she was unhappy, then she pissed off Menandro basically with her comments. So then Menandro's then talking to her, trying to say, why are you trying to say that I'm deceptive? What, because I just accepted a friendship from someone else and followed them back? So I think sometimes, as I said, Maria needs to literally think before she fucking speaks and throws her shit out there at the end of the day, because it doesn't come off right. So Menandro asked her, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to unfollow her? Do you want me to block her? And Maria had nothing to say to that. I'm just like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. from the notice board thing, I think Agatha and Maria, in that sense, are on a different planet. They're on a different planet to me, because that would not annoy me. So I would say, as I said with Val and Daniel, them two are my little red flags. I'm gonna say Maria and Agatha are my little red flags as well, because I don't like how they are coming across or coming off, to be fair. But as again, I shall be doing my predictions now, because that was the end of that episode. Because now in the next ones you see them coming up and they're getting ready to go to the altar. I think, you know, it's gone a little bit quick, because sometimes I think they last for ages, but now it's just like, zoom, they're there, it's coming up to altar time. So the reminders of the couples is Agatha and Hainan, Bianca and Jabus, you got Maria and Menandro, you got Danny and Daniel, and you've got Val and Karen. So that's 5 couples, people, 5 couples, so 5 predictions. I will bear warning, I am not great at predictions. As I've seen from the Ultimatum Queer Love, my predictions were way off. So I am prepared to be totally wrong in regards to these right now. So when it comes to Hainan and Agatha, I think it's going to be a no. And I think it's going to be a no from Hainan. I do. I think Hainan's going to let Agatha down. So yeah, that's my first one. It's going to be a no. When it comes to Bianca and Jabez, I think they may say yes, because to be fair, they haven't literally slid off the bats the way that many others have. They've got along quite well, to be fair. When it comes to Val and Karen, because my gut feeling is it's going to be a no, and I don't know who's going to say no. It'll probably be a no, but I am a little bit, it's either or with them two, either or. When it comes to Danny and Daniel, I don't think that's going to happen either. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either. And when it comes to, who was next? Maria and Menandro. I think Menandro's going to be the one to say yes, because he's literally loved up with this girl. I think Maria may say no, but I don't know. You let me know what you think if you've been watching it. And this is where I shall end it all. And I shall see you all again after the weddings have taken place. So, my little renegades, I will leave it here. And as I always say, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications, like, share, whatever you've got to do. And I'll be back. Peace out.